Hi friends! We're going to start off with brows, so grab your brush or whatever product you use. And we want a bold brow for this look, so we're basically going to go in and fill in any gaps in the hair just to give them a more full look. I personally use powder to fill in my brows. And I start from the front and go all the way to the ends. Once I fill in any sparse areas on the bottom, I'll do the same thing along the top of the brow. And then when I'm done, I'll fill in the brow with product. Now I'm going to go in with a very thin flat brush and grab my concealer, and I'm just going to carve my brows out. Think of your concealer as an eraser in this step. So basically, we're just going in with the concealer and making cleaner lines. Once you've cleaned up your brows a little bit, go ahead and start blending the concealer onto your eyelid. You want to make sure you go ahead and blend it out while your concealer is still damp, that way it's easier to work with. Now we're going to repeat the same step on the top of the brow. And once you've carved it out, go ahead and blend that concealer in on the top as well. Don't forget to blend in between the brows. I'm going to go ahead and do my other one off camera. Now we move on to foundation. I recommend doing it in sections, so I start on one cheek and then move to the other, and then usually chin, above my upper lip, nose, and then forehead. It doesn't have to be in any particular order. I just feel like if your foundation dries down fast, then it's best to work in sections just to avoid getting patchy. Don't forget to blend down the neck a little bit. Moving on to concealer, you don't really need much at all. I'm just putting a little bit under my eyes to cover any dark circles I have. We do also want our bright under eye area to make sure the colors we put on later are more pigmented. Time to powder our face. When you put on your powder, make sure you put on a whole lot. The more dry you are going onto the field, the better your makeup will look coming off the field. And we are powdering our entire face. Moving on to contour. This is less of contour and more just bringing some warmth back to the face. So I'm applying it in the hollows of my cheeks, and I do a little bit of nose contour if you want to call it that. Like I said, it's really just to bring more warmth back into the face. We don't want like a super snatched contour. And then we're going to contour our nose just a little bit. You'll see at the end I do blur it out with some powder. So don't worry about having it perfect. Also, everyone's noses are obviously a different shape. This is how I do mine. I just do contour on the sides of my nose, a tiny bit across the tip, and underneath like the bottom of the nostril area. But that's just what I do. You should do what's best suited for your nose shape. And then I put some powder on top of it just to soften the look a little bit. Now we're on to the side of the palette that says color splashes. These are our more vibrant colors. This palette doesn't have shade names, so if you need to pause it to see which ones I'm using, do that. But basically I use an orange and a red. We're going to use it one at a time. So this is the orange. We're just going to buff this out. I'm putting this on the sides of my forehead, the temple area, and the tops of my cheekbones. So keeping it within the top part of the face. Doing it on both sides, of course. And then I put a very tiny bit on the bridge of my nose. At this point, you can go in with powder and blend it out a little bit. You want to make sure it hasn't traveled too far to the center of the face. The orange should stay more on the outsides of the face. And then we're going to go in with that red shade, and that's going to stay right on the hairline, basically from the top of the cheekbone to the temple area. Here's where we're at so far. Going back in with our powder, like I said, we want this to stay from the cheekbones up, so you can see it's kind of going too far down my face. I'm just going to use the powder to basically erase a little bit of the orange off the bottom half of my face. And then we don't want that harsh line, so I'm just blending the two together a little bit. Here you can see the difference between the two sides. So we just clean it up and then blend up and into it. Just like that. Now we're going to do one of the best parts, which is highlight. Grab a small brush, and I put highlight on my nose, my forehead, my cheekbones, my chin, and my upper lip. Where you put your highlight is kind of preference, but just keep in mind we are fire, so we should be glowy. And go ahead and set with setting spray. I do this multiple times throughout the makeup process. The more you spray, the better you're going to look coming off the field, I promise you. Going in with a smaller brush, we're going to apply this gold highlight right at the brow bone and on the inner corner. Grab a fluffy brush, and we're going to dip into this orange shade. This is on the more muted side of the palette called Warming Up. We're going to put this not in the crease, but right above the crease. From this point forward, make sure your eyeshadow does not go past the end of your eyebrow. Grab a slightly smaller brush. They're going to get smaller with each color. And now we're going to go in with this brighter orange. And every time we add more color, it's going to get more concentrated, and we're going to blend it out a little bit less. Still working just above the crease. The point of this is to make a gradient from dark to light. Once again, a slightly smaller brush than last time, and an even darker red shade. And we're getting a little closer to the crease every time we apply a new color. Going in with this red on the very bottom row of the palette, and a very small brush to make sure it's more pigmented. As we start working with these darker shades, make sure you're blending them out into more of a wing shape towards the end of the eyebrow. Now we're going to go in with a makeup wipe and just go ahead and clean off any product you have on your eyelid. If you try to cut your crease with only concealer, a lot of the times it's just going to make the concealer muddy from where the eyeshadow and the concealer are blending. So go ahead and take that eyeshadow off of the lid and then cut the crease. Once you're done with that, go ahead and cover the entire eyelid in concealer. Blend it all the way out to the outer corner of the eye. In order to blend it out at the end here, you can either use a clean brush or your finger. Here's what it should look like so far. Grab a flat brush in this shade of gold here, and we're just going to cover the eyelid completely. You don't really have to worry about this being super clean. This gold is the same shade of gold that we used as our highlight earlier, so it should all blend together either way. Go in with another small brush and this darker red shade here, and we're just going to darken up the crease a little bit. Grabbing the tiniest brush you can find or using one of your small brushes from earlier, we're going to go in with the slightest bit of black eyeshadow. Not a lot at all, we're just tracing the line where we cut the crease. This gives the look more dimension, and you can really see the gradient I was talking about earlier, where we want it to go from dark at the crease to light up at the top of the brow bone. Go ahead and put on your mascara, and we're just going to dab a tiny bit of lipstick, not much, just enough to bring our lips back to life. And then with that same shade of gold, we're going to apply it only in the center of the lips. And there you go, this is what it should look like. You will be putting the eyeshadow on both eyes, but here is what they should look like at the end. Have a good show.